Biology 2 review questions. You can also access the information from St. Joseph University in Tanzania in platform. You can access this information from St. Joseph University in Tanzania platform. We are still on the review questions, and our today's session will be about paper 2, biology 2, which biology 2, the format shows that biology 2 has 6 questions, each question with 20 marks. Each question has 20 marks. Let's start with this first question, which the first question is of comparative studies of natural groups of organisms. It has it has 3 parts labeled arranged in the alphabetical numbers A, B, C. Starting with A, the question is read as: one of the main evolutionary trends in plants is the gradual increasing independence from water. Assess the main problems associated with the transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. Give 6 points. One of the main evolutionary trends in plants is their gradual increasing independence from water. Assess the main problems associated with the transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. Give 6 points. In this question, needs the students to write the problems associated with the transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. The following are the problems that the plants suffer in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. The first one is desiccation. The first point, desiccation. Yes, it's biology. Then the date is 3rd of May 2025. So the first problem I've said in the first question, the question is about the transition, the problems associated with the transition, from aquatic to terrestrial environments in the plant. The first one is desiccation. The first challenge is desiccation. This desiccation, that as the plants in their evolutionary tree, as they move from aquatic, in the transition from aquatic to terrestrial environments, one among the challenge that they face is desiccation, because here air, which is is a dry medium, and the water is associated. Why the water is essential for life for many reasons. Therefore, as the plant move from aquatic to terrestrial environment in their evolution, then they need water, because water is needed for life for many reasons, while the air is a drying medium, that they move from water, where water is essential for different life processes, while the air is a drying medium. Therefore, as they move from aquatic to terrestrial environment, they need to have means of obtaining water and conserving it, because on the terrestrial environment, the air is a drying medium. That means the air allows the plants to lose much water, while the water is needed for different metabolic processes in their bodies. Therefore, they need to have means of obtaining water and also means of conserving water. So one among the challenges that the plant face as they move from aquatic to terrestrial environment is desiccation. The second challenge is reproduction. The second challenge is reproduction. The second problem is, this is number 1A. Let's say this is Roman 1 and this is Roman 2. Reproduction. Here, in the reproduction, the plants in the aquatic environment, they depend on water for their reproduction, because the delicate sex cells must be protected, and motile male gametes, sperms, requires water if they are to reach the female gametes. In this case, you speak of for example, the plants that depends on water for reproduction. You speak of the two divisions, division bryophyta and division phrysanophyta, that produces flagellated male sperms that needs to swim in the presence of water. So as the plant moves from terrestrial from aquatic to terrestrial, then they face this problem of reproduction. And of course, the terrestrial plants have been adapted for their sexual reproduction do not depend on water, because think of the flowering plants, where for them they have a pollen tube that conveys the pollen grains to the to the ovary, to the micropyle, where the two, because the pollen tube conveys the generative nucleus, where on the way the generative nucleus divide to give two sperm nuclei, of which one of them fertilizes the egg, and the second one fertilizes the diploid polar nuclei to form a triploid primary endosperm, and that constitutes the mechanism of double fertilization. The second problem that the plants face is support in the transition. The second challenge is support. That the plants, as the plants move in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment, they face this problem of support, because air is not like water. Air, unlike water, air offers no support to the plant body, but the water provides support to the plant body. And therefore, this is one among the problem that the plants face in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. The fourth is nutrition. The fourth challenge is nutrition. Yes, the plants, when they are in water, of course, the plants require light and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, because the plants are autotrophs. They make their own food using their photoautotrophs, because they use energy from the sun. So that means at least part of their body must be above the ground. But again, the minerals and water, however, are at ground level, below the ground. And to make efficient use of these, parts of the plant must grow below the ground in darkness, so that these parts enables the plant to obtain minerals and water from the ground, and some parts must grow above the ground. So this is the nutrition is one among the challenges that the plants face in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. The fifth is gaseous exchange. The fifth challenge is gaseous exchange. gaseous exchange. Here, gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange, for photosynthesis and respiration, carbon dioxide and oxygen must be exchanged with the atmosphere rather than the surrounding solution. So in the terrestrial environment, for photosynthesis to take place, the carbon dioxide must be and oxygen must be exchanged with the surrounding environment. The plants, they take in carbon dioxide, which is essential for photosynthesis, and the oxygen is a waste because it comes from photosynthesis. So that is one among the challenges that the plants face in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment. The last is environmental variables. Environmental variables. Environmental variables. The point number 6, Roman 6. Environmental variables. Environmental variables. Here, in the environmental variables, the water, particularly large bodies of water, like lakes and oceans, provide a very constant environment. But the terrestrial environment is much more subject to changes, and therefore it is too much subjected to changes in the environmental variables such as temperature, light intensity, ionic concentration, and pH, of which these factors are important as they regulate the metabolic activities of the plants. Therefore, as the plant in their transition from aquatic to terrestrial environment, one among the challenges on the terrestrial environment, the plants face a change in different parameters, because the water, when they are in water, the water is not that much subjected to change in variables such as temperature, light intensity, ionic concentration, and pH. But as they move in their transition to the terrestrial environment, the terrestrial environment is much more subjected to change in different parameters of life, or the environmental variables such as temperature, ionic concentration, pH, light intensity, and therefore that means as the plant move to the terrestrial environment, they must have means of controlling the environmental variables, because these things such as pH, ionic concentration, or temperature, or light intensity in the terrestrial environment, there is fluctuation in this. Therefore, the plants need to have some mechanisms so that they can control those the change in essential parameters that have impacts on the metabolism of the plants, which these are important for the survival of the plants. Part B, question number 1B. Part B, question number 1B is saying Euglena is an ancestor of plants and animals. Justify the statement using 3 points each. Euglena is a member of kingdom Protoctista and phylum Euglenophyta. Euglena is regarded as an ancestor of plants and animals because Euglena has some features that resembles the plants, and also it has some features that resembles the animals. So Euglena as an ancestor of plants, it is regarded as an ancestor of plant because the Euglena possess the following features. One, the Euglena have chloroplasts that contains chlorophyll, and therefore Euglena can photosynthesize like plants, and from this fact, the Euglena can be regarded as ancestors of the plants. Euglena also contain structures called pyrenoids. These pyrenoids are the storage of starch. That means Euglena, like the plants, store carbohydrate in form of starch. Also, Euglena, like plants, they can utilize the nitrates or ammonia as source of nitrogen. That means Euglena can utilize nitrates and ammonia as source of nitrogen like the plants. So all these three factors makes the Euglena, all the three factors are the ones that makes the Euglena to be regarded as the ancestor of the plant. Also, Euglena is sometimes referred to as an ancestor of animal because the Euglena possess the following features. One, they have structure called myonemes. Myonemes, these are muscle-like strands. The Euglena as ancestor of animals. Euglena as ancestor of animals. As ancestor of animals possess myonemes. These are muscle-like strands. Muscle-like strands. These are muscle-like strands. Euglena, these are muscle-like strands. Like they are, as ancestors of animal, they are regarded as ancestors of animals because Euglena possess the following structure. They have first myonemes, and these myonemes are muscle-like strands, and therefore from that point, the Euglena can be regarded as ancestors of animals because they possess myonemes, which are muscle-like strands. And also Euglena possess flagella for locomotion, and this locomotion, the movement in Euglena is called the euglenoid movement. Therefore, they possess flagella for locomotion, and the locomotion in Euglena is called the euglenoid movement. And this makes the Euglena to be regarded as ancestors of animals because like animals, the Euglena can locomote because of the presence of flagella. Euglena are capable of utilizing amino acids, peptones, and polypeptides as source of nitrogen. The Euglena also can utilize the amino acids, peptones, and peptides as source of nitrogen, like the animals. Also, Euglena have a gullet with a sphincter and reservoir, and this is for ingestion of food. That means, like the animals, that they have the animals have holozoic nutrition because they have a mouth and the food is ingested through the mouth. So Euglena also, like animals, they have a gullet with a sphincter and reservoir for the ingestion of food. But also Euglena have photoreceptor for the detection of light conditions. The Euglena have photoreceptor for the detection of light conditions. So any three from that will make the 3 points of the reasons of Euglena being regarded as an ancestor of as an ancestor of the animals. Part C of question number 1 is saying describe the 4 significances of the serum in the body of coelomate. Significance of serum. The serum is the body cavity found in some organisms in which all the organs are suspended. The coelom is found in organisms of phylum Annelida, such as the earthworms. The coelom performs the following functions. Significance or functions of coelom. Significance or functions of coelom. The coelom performs the following function. First, it contains coelomic fluid, which acts as a hydrostatic skeleton. But also the coelom separates the alimental canal from the body wall, so that the function of the two parts takes place independently. I've said the coelom first contains coelomic fluid, which acts as a hydrostatic skeleton, but also the second point, the coelom separates the alimental canal from the body wall, so that the functions of the two parts takes place independently. Also, the coelom allows the animal to grow larger. Again, the coelomic fluid acts as a circulatory medium for the transportation of food and excretory wastes. But also the coelom provides the space for the enlargement of internal organs, and in some organisms, the coelom may play osmoregulatory role in some organisms. That marks the end of the first question, which is of comparative studies of natural groups with 20 marks. And here, according to this, then, because part A, 6 points, each one mark, making a total of 6. Part B, 3 of euglena as an ancestor of plant and 3 points of euglena as an ancestor of animal. Each part 3 marks per. That means 1 point per 1 mark per 1 point, making a total of 6. And in the functions of coelom, N because 6 plus 6, 12, N 4 points, each point 2 marks, making a total of 8. So the grand total in question number 1 is 20 marks. Question number 2 is of homeostasis. The question, it has again 3 parts. That is part 1, part A, B, and C. Starting with part A, the question is saying, how does the body of human being control the sodium level in the blood? How does the body of human being control the sodium level in the blood? Then this part A is the control of sodium level in the human body. The control of sodium level in the human body is under the influence of a hormone called the aldosterone. This must be question number 2. A control of sodium level. The control of sodium level in the blood. The control of sodium level in the blood. The control of the sodium level in the blood is under the influence of a hormone called aldosterone. Aldosterone. This is a steroid hormone, aldosterone. Aldosterone is a steroid hormone. So the maintenance of plasma sodium level at a steady state or at a balance is controlled by a steroid hormone called the aldosterone. The mechanism of this process is as follows. A decrease in blood sodium level leads to a decrease in blood volume because less water enters the blood by osmosis. This in turn reduces the blood pressure. The decrease in blood, because of this, we have said that less water, a decrease in sodium level leads to a decrease in blood volume because less water enters the blood by osmosis. This in turn reduces blood pressure. A decrease in blood pressure and volume stimulates a group of secretory cells called the juxtaglomerular complex or the juxtaglomerular apparatus. A decrease in pressure and volume stimulates a group of secretory cells called the juxtaglomerular complex or juxtaglomerular apparatus. These cells are situated between the convoluted tubule and the afferent arteriole. And the stimulation of the secretory cells of the juxtaglomerular, once there is a low pressure, then these cells are stimulated to secrete a hormone called an enzyme, not hormone. These cells are stimulated to secrete an enzyme called renin. So the secretory cells of the juxtaglomerular complex or apparatus becomes stimulated, secrete an enzyme called the renin. Secrete an enzyme called the renin. Renin activates the large plasma protein produced by the liver to form active hormone angiotensinogen. The renin converts angiotensinogen This is renin. Renin enzyme converts, and this is a large plasma protein produced by the liver. So the renin converts angiotensinogen into angiotensin, which this is a hormone. This is an active hormone. Angiotensin is an active hormone. Renin is secreted by the secretory cells of the juxtaglomerular complex in response to a decrease in pressure and blood. The renin converts the large plasma protein produced by the liver. This plasma protein is called angiotensinogen, so it's converted into angiotensin. Sometimes it's, when explaining this, you can say that it's converted into angiotensin 1, which the later is converted into angiotensin 2. This is just an intermediate, angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 or angiotensin is the one that is detected by the adrenal cortex. So the angiotensin stimulates the release of aldosterone from adrenal cortex. This is the one that is detected, angiotensin 2 or simply angiotensin is the one which is detected by the adrenal cortex, and it stimulates the adrenal cortex. It triggers the circulation of aldosterone from adrenal cortex. So the angiotensin 2 stimulates the adrenal cortex to circulate, to release aldosterone. Aldosterone travels in the blood to the distal convoluted tubule of the kidney, where the aldosterone stimulates the absorption of sodium. The aldosterone it stimulates absorption of sodium and excretion of potassium in the distal convoluted tubule, but also aldosterone stimulates the absorption of sodium in the gut and decreases the loss of the excretion of sodium in sweat. All the three, absorption of sodium and excretion of potassium in the distal convoluted tubule, absorption of sodium in the gut, and reduces the decrease in excretion of sodium in sweat. All these three events increases the blood sodium level, and once the sodium level in the blood has increased, this in turn causes more water to enter the cell by osmosis, and therefore raising its pressure and hence raising its volume and hence its pressure. Therefore, the regulation of the regulation of sodium level is the same as the regulation of blood pressure and regulation of blood volume. That's part A. It has 10 marks, at least any 10 points, each one marks, making a total of 10 marks. Part B of this is saying the primary excretory product of mammals, the primary excretory product of mammals is urea. Explain why urea is the main nitrogenous waste product in mammals. Explain why urea is the main nitrogenous waste product in mammals. Give 3 points. Urea is the main nitrogenous waste in mammals. Explain why the urea is the main nitrogenous waste product in mammals. Urea is the main nitrogenous waste in mammals because most mammals live on land. They are terrestrial organisms, most of them. Therefore, they excrete urea because first, they are found in terrestrial habitats. That means they need to have means of conserving water. Excretion of urea is by the terrestrial mammals is a water conserving adaptation. It's a water conserving mechanism because the excretion of urea, when compared to ammonia, urea is less soluble in water and less toxic as compared to ammonia. Urea is less soluble in water and is less toxic compared to ammonia. Therefore, its excretion, its removal requires a smaller amount of water compared to ammonia, which is excreted usually by the aquatic organisms, because most of the aquatic organisms, they're surrounded by plenty of water, and therefore even if they use a large amount of water to wash ammonia, it's not a problem for them. But for the mammals, they excrete urea because urea is less soluble and also less toxic. But excreting urea is usually advantageous, and the following are the advantages of excreting urea. Urea is excreted by the mammals, and the following are the advantages of excreting urea. First, urea is non-toxic. It can therefore be carried around the body in the blood from the liver where it is made until when it is removed by the kidney, when it is filtered in the kidney. Therefore, it's non-toxic. It doesn't harm any part as it is being transported. But also, urea is very soluble in water, and this means that it does not require large amount of water for it to be washed. For this matter, urea is excreted by the terrestrial mammals because it enables the organism to conserve water, as it does not use a great deal of water in washing it. Also, urea is a small molecule. Therefore, this enables it to be filtered easily in the kidney, and therefore it can be excreted together with the urine. And in the advantages and 3 points, you get 3 marks. Part C of the question is saying, briefly explain the following observations. Roman 1. In cold weather, human urinates more dilute urine than in hot weather. In cold weather, human urinates more dilute urine than in hot weather. Why? It's true that in cold weather, human produce dilute urine than in hot weather. Because in hot weather, when it is cold, there is a constriction of blood vessel in the skin. In order to reduce heat lost by radiation and conduction. This leads to less sweating and retains more water in the blood. The act of retaining water in the blood causes the blood to be more dilute. That means it lowers the blood osmotic pressure. This leads to low blood osmotic pressure, and in this case there will be inhibition of secretion of ADH, antidiuretic hormone. In the absence, if the ADH is inhibited, the membrane of the distal and collecting duct becomes impermeable to water. Therefore, no water or little amount of water is reabsorbed back in the distal and collecting duct, because the distal component tubule and collecting duct becomes impermeable to water. Therefore, no or little amount of water is reabsorbed back into the body, and this results into production of large and copious dilute urine. Yes, but the next part, which is Roman 2, is saying animals that live in dry habitats tend to have much longer loop of Henle than the animals that live where water is freely available. Yes, it's true. It's an adaptation, because the animals that live in dry habitats, they tend to have longer loop of Henle than animals that live where water is freely available, because these animals, they are found in places where water is not freely available. Then they need to conserve water, and having long loop of Henle ensures maximum reabsorption of water. The maximum reabsorption of water enables the organisms to conserve water. Therefore, it's an adaptation that enables them to survive in dry environments, because the longer the loop of Henle, the more the reabsorption of water takes place, and this enables the organism to conserve water. That makes, so in this question, the first question, 10 marks plus 3 marks, 6 marks of the reasons for as to why the mammals excrete urea, plus 4 marks in part C. That means each explanation 2 marks. Question number 3 is of growth and development. This question is saying, describe the meristems based on type, their location, role, and their effect in plant growth. Tabulate your answers as shown in the table below. There is this table. Question number 3, there is a table about the types of meristem. Then we have this part here, which stands for, we have this, something like this. This is a table. Here, it is a type of meristem. Then, location, then there is role, and also we have effect. The first type of meristem is apical meristem. Apical meristem, because there are 3 types of meristem. The first one is apical meristem. The type is apical meristem. The location, apical meristem are found at the apices. These are found at the apices of shoots, found at the apices or tips of roots and shoots, found at the tips of roots and the shoots. These are found at the tips or apices of roots and shoots. The role of these, they are responsible for primary growth. The role of the apical meristems, they are responsible for primary growth because they give rise to primary plant body. The effect, the apical meristem results into increase in length. So the type is apical meristems. They are found at the apex or apices of roots and shoots. The location, they are found at the tips. The location, they are found at the tips or apices of roots and shoots. The role, they are responsible for primary growth as they give rise to primary plant body. And the effect there is they result into an increase in length. The second type is the lateral meristems. Lateral meristems. The lateral meristems, these are meristematic cells that their location, they are laterally situated in older parts of the plant, parallel with the long axis of organs. Or in other words, they are found in a cylinder towards the outside of the stem and stems and the stems and the roots. They are responsible for secondary growth as they result in formation of secondary xylem and phloem, and they result in an increase in give. That means they This results into an increase in the circumference, girth, thickness of the root and stems. They are found in the cylinders, on the cylinders, towards the outside of the stem and the roots. They are responsible for secondary growth because they result in formation of secondary xylem and phloem. The effect is they result into an increase in girth or thickness of the stem or roots, or they result into an increase in the cambial circumference, which is the girth, and this is common in the wood plants. Growth that is common in the wood plants. Intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. The third is intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristems. Intercalary meristems. Intercalary meristems, these are meristematic tissues found between the regions of permanent tissues. Example, in the nodes of many monocotyledons. These are the meristems found in the regions of permanent tissues. Example, at the nodes of many monocotyledonous plants, or at the nodes of many monocotyledons. These, the role of this results into primary growth. They result into primary growth, and they also result into an increase in length in regions other than they result into an increase in length, and it's responsible for primary growth because it results into an increase in length in regions other than the tips. That's part A, question number 3. Question number 3B is saying, explain the environmental conditions required for seed germination. For a seed to germinate, first, germination is the growth of a seed into seedling. The growth of a seed into seedling is called germination. Germination requires the following environmental conditions. First is water. So necessary part B of this is environmental conditions. Environmental conditions necessary for seed germination. The first one is water. Water is essential during germination. It's an environmental factor that is essential for seed germination. First, the initial uptake of water by the seed is a process called imbibition that takes place through the micropyle. The water enters the seed via the micropyle. Water creates an imbibition force that facilitates, enhances the bursting of the tester. Also, water is needed because it activates different biochemical reactions associated with the germination, because most of this reaction takes place in aqueous solution. Water also is an important reagent as it is used in the hydrolysis of food stores. For example, different food stores are hydrolyzed in the presence of water. The second environmental condition is optimum temperature. Optimum temperature. Optimum temperature. Usually there is a characteristic temperature range outside which a given type of seed will germinate. Different types of seeds germinate different temperature. The optimum temperature is essential for a particular seed to germinate because the optimum temperature has an impact on the enzymes that catalyzes the different enzymatic reactions during germination. If the temperature is too low, then the enzymes becomes inactive. If the temperature is above the optimum temperature, then the enzymes are said to be denatured. Therefore, optimum temperature is essential as it allows the enzymes to work best only if the temperature is optimal. The third environmental condition is oxygen. Oxygen is important during germination because oxygen is required for the oxidation of food. So oxygen is required for aerobic respiration, although such respiration can be supplemented with anaerobic respiration if it is necessary. The fourth point is light. This light is important because it helps to raise the level of gibberellin. It helps to raise the level of gibberellin, and this is important during seed germination. The last part C of this question of question number 3. Question number 3. Saying, explain why mitosis is important in all organisms, all groups of organisms. The importance of mitosis in living things. Importance of mitosis in living things. The following are the significance of mitosis. Mitosis produces two daughter cells with the same number of chromosomes as the parent, and therefore mitosis maintains genetic stability because mitosis produces two nuclei which have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. The daughter cells are genetically identical to the parent cell, and there is no variation, no genetic variation in information, and therefore there is no introduction of any other factor that can result into variation. Therefore, mitosis maintains genetic stability. Also, mitosis is important in growth because in the growth, the number of cells within an organism increases as a result of mitosis, and this is the basis of growth in a multicellular organism. In unicellular organism, mitosis results in an increase in number of entire organisms because the organisms are made of single cells. So every time a cell divides, produces an entire organism. So in a unicellular organism, mitosis results into production of new individuals, and therefore it is the basis of reproduction, and in this context it is asexual reproduction. Mitosis is also important in cell replacement. Replacement of cells and tissues also involves mitosis. Cells are constantly dying and being replaced. An obvious example is being in the skin. Also, even the red blood cells, they have a limited lifespan. I think it's approximately 120 days. Afterwards, they usually won't, and new ones come from the pre-existing one by cell division. Mitosis is also important in regeneration of body parts. Some animals are able to regenerate the whole parts of the body, such as legs in crustaceans and arms in starfish. Not only that, even the lizards are capable of if they are caught by the predators, then the lizards are capable of detaching the tail, and thereafter the tail regenerates. The regeneration of tail in lizards is an example of regeneration. The last is asexual reproduction. I've already said that in the unicellular organisms, mitosis results into production of an entire organism, and for this matter, it is the basis of asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms such as yeast. Number 4 is a question of genetics, but that question of growth, it has 4 parts. It has 3 parts. The first part is of meristems with 12 marks. The second part is of the necessary conditions for germination, any 4 points. Yes, 4 points, each one mark. So 4 marks plus 12, 16. And the significance of mitosis, any 4 points, each point 1 mark, making a total of 4. And therefore, question number 3 contains 20 marks. Question number 4 is of genetics. Question number 4 is a genetics question, and the first part is saying, discuss the characteristics of the genetic code. Give 5 points. Characteristic features of the genetic code. Question number 4. Number 4A. The features of the genetic code. Features of the genetic code. Features of the genetic code. Number 1. The genetic code is triplet. The features of the genetic code. The characteristics of the genetic code. The genetic code is triplet. Yes. The code is triplet. The code is triplet. The code is a triplet. The code is a triplet code. The code is a triplet code. Triplet code means that 3 bases codes for a single amino acid, meaning that 3 bases in a DNA code for 1 amino acid in a certain protein. For example, 3 bases code. This means that 3 bases in a DNA codes for a certain amino acid. For example, AUG, which this codes for methionine. This is the code that has the instruction for the synthesis of methionine. This AUG means this is adenine. AUG, this codes for methionine. This is adenine, uracil, and guanine. So the code is triplet. That means the 3 bases, 1, 2, 3, triplet, 1, 2, 3. 3 bases code for 1 amino acid. So the genetic code is triplet. The second characteristic is that the genetic code is degenerate. The genetic code is degenerate. The code is degenerate. The code is a degenerate code. The code is degenerate. The genetic code is degenerate. Means being degenerate means that amino acids are coded by several codons. Amino acids are coded by several codons. The meaning of the being degenerate means that amino acids are coded by several codons. The number of amino acids is less than the number of codons. Analysis of the code also shows that for many amino acids, only one first two letters appear to be significant. So means amino acids are coded by several codons. The amino acids are coded by several codons. This means that the genetic code is degenerate. Also, the code is punctuated. The code is punctuated. The genetic code is punctuated. This means that it has start and stop signals. Being punctuated means that the genetic code it has the start and stop signals. For example, UAA acts as a full stop in determining the end of the code. Therefore, it is a nonsense codon and do not code for amino acid. Why? AUG codes for methionine. AUG codes for methionine and is a start signal. It initiates. It's a start signal as it initiates the polypeptide chain. This is a start signal. AUG is a start signal. It initiates the polypeptide chain. But UAA is a nonsense codon. UAA is a nonsense codon as it codes for no amino acid. UAA is a full stop codon. This is a full stop codon. This is a full stop codon. Full stop codon. Or it is a nonsense codon. UAA is a nonsense codon. Yes, also the code is universal. The genetic code. Usually factor. which occur in pairs. Only one pair of such factor can be represented in a single gamete. The characteristics of an organism are determined by internal occur in pairs. Only one of a pair of such factor can be represented in a single gamete. While the second law of inheritance states that it's also called the law of independent assortment. It's Mendel's second law of inheritance. It's also called the law of independent assortment. And this, the principle of independent assortment, states that any one of a pair of characteristics may combine with either one of another pair. Any one of a pair of characteristics, any one of a pair of characteristics may combine with either one of another pair. That marks the end of question number 4. Question number 5 is of evolution, again with 20 marks. The first question is saying, briefly explain the following evolutionary events. Briefly explain the following evolutionary events. Roman 1, the incompleteness of the fossil records. The incompleteness of the incompleteness of the fossil records is because of the following: that the fossils, there are some missing links in the fossil records, or the fossil records is an incomplete evidence of organic evolution because of the following. First, dead organisms decompose rapidly, and therefore some of the fossils, some of the remnants of the organisms may be lost because the dead organisms decompose very rapidly. Also, sometimes the dead organisms are eaten by scavengers, and therefore the fossils of these organisms cannot be found. Also, the soft-bodied organisms do not fossilize easily. There are some bodies are very soft, and these organisms usually their bodies do not fossilize easily. But also, only a fraction of living organisms will have died in conditions favorable for fossilization. And the last one, only a fraction of fossils has been discovered. Those are the reasons for the incompleteness of the fossil records. Part B, this question is saying, the high prevalence. Briefly explain the following evolutionary events. The high prevalence of sickle cell anemia in sub-Saharan Africa. The high prevalence of sickle cell anemia in sub-Saharan Africa. In sub-Saharan Africa, where malaria is the major source of illness and death, in sub-Saharan Africa, where malaria is the major source of illness and death, individuals possessing sickle cell allele have increased resistance to malaria, because the malaria parasite Plasmodium cannot easily attack us, cannot easily invade the sickle cells. Individuals with either sickle cell condition is therefore more resistant to severe attacks of malaria. The heterozygotes in malaria regions like sub-Saharan Africa, there is a selective advantage of the heterozygotes because the homozygous die, I think, before reaching the productive age or in the embryonic state. But the heterozygotes, a selective advantage. The heterozygous genotype maintain the sickle cell allele in the population because these individuals, they do not suffer from malaria. So it's a mechanism. That means in the sub-Saharan Africa, there are many cases of sickle cells because the heterozygotes have a survival advantage as they do not suffer from malaria. The heterozygotes have a survival advantage. This is called the heterozygote advantage because the heterozygous individuals do not die in the embryonic stage, and as a result, they survive. And this, because of the possession of this allele, these individuals are very resistant to attack by the plasmodium. As a result, the heterozygote individuals in these regions maintains the heterozygous genotype maintains the sickle cell allele in the populations, and this is the reason as to why that means there's high frequency of sickle cell allele in the sub-Saharan Africa. That's the meaning of high prevalence of sickle cell anemia in sub-Saharan Africa, because the heterozygotes are the ones that maintain the allele in the population because they have an advantage as they survive possession of the allele allows them to survive as these individuals are very resistant to the malaria problem or which disease. Part B of this question is saying, according to Theodosius Dobzhansky in the year 1937, explain the 5 prezygotic mechanisms which brings about speciation. 5 prezygotic mechanisms. These are the isolating mechanisms that interfere with the process of reproduction before even the formation of the zygote. These are mechanisms that the isolation mechanisms that this isolation mechanism, or the mechanisms that interfere with the reproduction before even the formation of the zygote. These are called prezygotic mechanisms. The following are the prezygotic mechanisms. The first one is ecological isolation, that species do not meet because they are in different habitat preference. Hence, there is no mating that takes place. So this is ecological isolation. The second one is called behavioral isolation. This behavioral isolation is the mechanism that interfere with the reproduction before the formation of the zygote, and this occurs when animals, behavioral isolation occurs when animals exhibit different courtship patterns which cannot stimulate or are not accepted by the organism of the opposite sex. Also, incompatibility. Incompatibility is of two types. There is physical incompatibility, in which this is caused by difference in the size of the genital organs, different in size of the genitalia, that prevents the successful copulation, and therefore this interfere with the process of reproduction before even the formation of the zygote. Also, there is physiological incompatibility, and this occurs. These are physiological changes that prevent fertilization. For example, sometimes the presence of spermicides that kills the sperms. These are produced by the female reproductive parts, which kills the sperms and destroy them. The third is seasonal isolation. That this is a mechanism that involves timing of courtship behavior and gamete production in animals. When the organisms become reproductive mature at different times of the year, then this prevents the mating between them because they mature at different times. And the last is spatial isolation. This involves separation in space. This is separation by a physical barrier or any other that prevents the mating between the two. Giving example, explain how the following supports that there is a gradual change of living things over a period of time. The first is paleontology and the other one is comparative biochemistry. Starting with paleontology. Paleontology is the study of fossils. Fossils are formed in the process of fossilization. Fossil records suggest that complex and advanced forms of plants and animals evolved from simple and primitive forms of life. This is shown by the fossils found in different layers of the sedimentary rocks, whereby the lower layer of the sedimentary rocks, these are sometimes called lower strata. The lower strata contains fossils which are simple and primitive, while the upper strata consists of organisms which the fossils which seems to be complex and more advanced. And this therefore shows that there is a gradual change in the heritable characteristics of organisms from simple to complex, or from primitive to more advanced forms of life. And this is shown by the fossils found in different layers of the sedimentary rocks, because the deeper rocks contains the fossils of the simple and primitive organisms, the lower, the younger rock, the older rocks. But as you go up, then the upper layer of the sedimentary rocks, those are the younger rocks, consist of organisms which are complex and more advanced. Therefore, this one itself depicts that there has been a gradual change from simple and primitive forms of life to complex and more advanced forms of life. Therefore, the fossils suggest that the organisms has never been static. The fossils shows that the species of organisms do not remain unchanged. They have been changing in the course of time from simple and primitive to more complex and more advanced forms of life. Comparative biochemistry. Comparative biochemistry is the comparison of chemical composition and physiological processes among groups of organisms. Comparative biochemistry shows that there has been an occurrence of similar chemical molecules in a complete range of organisms, and this suggests the existence of biochemical homology. For example, the hemoglobin of human, gorilla, and chimpanzee is the same. Also, the chemistry of chlorophyll is the same in all chlorophyllous plants. Not only that, the cytochrome, all aerobically respiring organisms contain cytochrome as a coenzyme. Also, the chemistry of nucleic acid is the same, and the genetic code is universal. Also, the 20 amino acids, first 20 amino acids found in organisms is the same. Also, that this makes about the cellular compartments. But we have the physiology, where various groups of organisms share similar physiological processes, such as the hormones in codex have the same composition and performs the same roles. For example, insulin hormone extracted from cattle and pigs is chemically and naturally similar to human insulin and is used to treat diabetes. The similarity in basic cellular components and physiology among chordates suggests that the chordates come from the same ancestry, and the difference that is seen among them is the result of these organisms being found in different places of the world, and therefore this suggests that there is a gradual change from simple and primitive to complex and more advanced forms of life. Question number 6. Is a question of ecology with 20 marks. It has 3 marks. It has 3 parts. 20 marks, but it's divided into 3 parts. The first part is saying, how does deforestation increase atmospheric carbon dioxide? This question needs the student to understand, need them to write how does the deforestation reduces the atmospheric carbon dioxide. Deforestation is the act of cutting down trees. Deforestation reduces the total weight volume of photosynthetic material and thus reduces the consumption of atmospheric carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. Because cutting down trees, the plants are the ones that consume the carbon dioxide as they use carbon dioxide to make their own food. Therefore, deforestation reduces the total weight volume of photosynthetic material and thus reduces the consumption of atmospheric carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. Also, deforestation involves clearing of the trees, cutting down trees. Removal of the tree canopy exposes the forest floor to sunlight and warmer temperatures. In forests or woodlands with significant litter and soil humus contents, this exposure will favor accelerated rates of decomposition and carbon dioxide release. As a result, then the deforestation increased the carbon dioxide concentration or partial pressure. Part B, with 4 reasons, explain why the pyramids of energy narrows to the tops. Why the pyramid of energy tapers towards the end or narrow towards the top. The pyramids of energy narrows to the top because of the following. Usually the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next, but not all parts of the organism are edible. Some energy remains trapped in parts which are not edible, such as bones and horns. Also, some energy is lost in excretion, such as during urination, the energy which is lost in urea in animals or mammals. Also, some of the energy is lost in the egesta, because not all eaten materials are digestible. The egesta are the indigestible and the undigestible materials. But also, some of the energy is used to carry out different physical and metabolic activities, and these activities convert it to heat, energy, and consequently is lost from the ecosystem. Also, some energy is used in growth and also lost in respiration, hence not available to the next trophic level. Those are the reasons as to why the pyramid of energy narrows to the top. The last part of question number 6 is discuss the factors that regulate population growth. Give 6 points. Population growth. The population growth or the increase in number of organisms in the population is caused by two: immigration and birth rate or natality. Natality or birth rate and immigration increases the number of organisms, while emigration and mortality, death rate, reduces the number of organisms in the population. These are the four demographic factors that results into either increase or decrease. But the factors that regulate, there are a number of factors that regulate, that may result into either organisms die or give birth, or organisms move to the other places or move to another place. Or migration or immigration. Immigration or emigration. Emigration and immigration. The following are the factors that regulate population growth. Water and air. Availability of quality water and air favors high reproduction and immigration of organisms from places where such resources are scarce. This will result in growth of population or increase population size. Quite the opposite. Their shortage could slow reproduction, increase mortality, and emigration, hence limit the population growth. The second point is food or nutrients. Nutrients favors high natality and welcomes immigration of other organisms from other places, leading to population growth. Scarcity or insufficient of nutrients leads to competition, emigration, slowdown reproduction, and high mortality of organisms, hence limiting the population growth. Living space and shelter. Availability of living space and shelter favors the high natality and immigration, consequently leading to population size increase. Shortage of living space and shelter leads to competition, immigration, and even low natality and high mortality. Sunlight. The sunlight quantity, quality, and duration affects much the plant population because they depend on light for photosynthesis. When the light is enough, plant will reproduce enormously, hence leading to increase in population. But the opposite, when there is poor and inadequate light, then the plants compete where possible and others die, hence limiting the population growth. Weather conditions such as temperature, wind, rainfall, and humidity affect much of the population growth. Optimum levels of these factors favors population growth, and when the level of either of them is below or above, it decreases the population. Natural disasters. Natural calamities such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, droughts, landslides, hurricanes, tsunamis cause drastic change in environmental conditions, leading to the destruction of the resources and even may cause direct death of members of the population. Parasites and diseases. Parasites and diseases slow down the growth and reduces the reproduction potential within a population, therefore limiting their population growth. As the other one is competition. As more individuals compete for the same limited resource, such as food, shelter, mate, water, the birth rates decreases and mortality increases. High competition can also drive some individuals to emigrate to less crowded areas to prevent newcomers. Predator-prey relationship. High density often attracts more predators, which increase mortality. The constant threat of predation may lower natality and also emigration. Territoriality. Limited available territory can restrict population size by limiting breeding opportunities, hence lowering natality and forcing individuals to leave or emigrate. And that marks the end of our today's presentation. Don't forget that you can get all this information from the St. Joseph University in Tanzania platform. Thank you.